He is the self-confessed mastermind behind the 9/11 bombings. Tonight, this programme, in conjunction with the Huffington Post, can reveal a 36-page document written by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. In it, he condemns Western values and encourages everyone to embrace Islam. And it seems the man accused of murdering thousands of people has no regrets, despite spending more than 7 years in Guantanamo Bay. In a moment, we'll be speaking to Deborah Burlingham, who the sister of one of the pilots of the planes attacked on September the 11th. But first, here's Fatima Manji's exclusive report.
Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the self-confessed mastermind behind the 9/11 bombings that shocked the world. Nearly 3,000 people killed in one afternoon. An attack that still scars many lives today, leaving families with no closure. The reason? This man has still not been put on trial. This is the first time we can hear his thoughts from inside Guantanamo Bay, where he has been held for more than 7 years. Failure to bring him to justice means he now has the time to write this manifesto, which many will find deeply offensive. We have decided to only broadcast short excerpts from a 36-page document. This document is written by Khalid Sheikh Mohammed himself. Yes, he had access to a laptop. He says it's his message to the crusaders of the military commission at Guantanamo, which he calls a kangaroo court. This is his signature, signed off October 31st, 2013. In it, he is defiant and says he's not been broken by torture. His words are voiced by an actor.
I live in solitary confinement, but I'm very happy in my cell because my spirit is free, even while my body is being held captive. I have been neither sad nor distressed in my solitary confinement since 2003, because I have been here with the only one true God.
This is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed's manifesto, entitled An Invitation to Happiness. And he spends most of it describing the depraved West and inviting people to convert because it will make them happy. But it seems 36 pages isn't enough for him, and he tells us there are 2 more parts to come, which he will write once he gets his confiscated laptop back. In part 2, he says he will tell us why the Mujahideen carried out 9/11. And in part 3, KSM claims he will reveal the truth about the so-called war on terror.
Overtly, he's addressed this to the court, but I think he's quite aware that the document will have an audience way beyond that. And I think he's seeking perhaps to speak to the American public more broadly. Some of the references certainly suggest that he's trying to influence the broader public. He goes into a lengthy analysis of the Bible, of Jesus, and I think it's clear that he is aware of the importance of Christianity in American public life.
Since his capture in 2003, he's been waterboarded nearly 200 times. But despite a decade behind bars, he still hasn't faced justice.
Let's talk about waterboarding. Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the chief operating officer of Al-Qaeda, ordered the attack on 9/11. And they say, he's got information. I said, find out what he knows.
On his first day in office, President Obama made this pledge.
Guantanamo will be closed no later than 1 year from now.
And then there was this.
They will be brought to New York, to answer for their alleged crimes in a courthouse just blocks away from where the Twin Towers once stood.
But the plan prompted outcry from victims, and the Obama administration was forced to back away. And with a continuing failure to prosecute Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the conditions have relaxed. He can now spend an hour a day with an inmate of his choice, exercising and talking. He reads extensively and seems to have knowledge of the outside world. But he clearly remains ever scathing about Western presence in Muslim countries.
Hundreds of American crusader, soldier, men and women join the U.S. Army. Wear the latest military gear, eat the best food in Iraq and Afghanistan, and play with their PlayStations while their enemies, the poor Muslims, cannot find their daily bread. But at the end, the American soldiers go back home and commit suicide. But the poor man is still with his dry bread and black tea, lives with his poor wife, with happy hearts and souls.
KSM met Osama bin Laden in Pakistan in the late 1980s. After 2 decades committed to Al-Qaeda, he was finally captured in Karachi in 2003 and sent to Guantanamo 3 years later. His experiences lead him to warn Americans of a growing secret state. He describes the intelligence services as a black box whose authority supersedes all and whose budget is sometimes double African countries combined. But it's also Western society itself he attacks.
The US, Great Britain and France, their communities have been destroyed by high rates of divorce, rape, robbery, killing, suicide, AIDS, and often depression, bankruptcies, abortion, drugs, homosexuals, homelessness, psychological disorders, mental illnesses. Boys and girls in Western life are slaves of their own passions. Sexy life, searching for the latest fashion, or lifestyle trend that is bent on destroying them, not physically, but spiritually.
It's been 12 years since this camp first opened, and despite attempts to close it, 155 detainees remain inside. If one man symbolises the failure of Guantanamo, it is Khalid Sheikh Mohammed. The administration can't release him and can't try him on US soil. Instead, they've been conducting a much criticised military commission on the site. This continued failure to bring him before a court raises massive questions, not just about the lack of justice, but now his ability to communicate with the outside world.